Oh, hello. I wasn't expecting to see you today. I'm just here in my garage catching up on my reading. Have you ever read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki? It's a great read and has many important lessons about how a person should think about money, assuming they wish to be rich. The basic premise of the book is that Robert grew up with his biological father, the poor dad of the title, who was a highly educated man with multiple university degrees and who worked as a teacher and school superintendent. Despite his education and prestigious job, he was essentially broke, with little to no savings and living paycheck to paycheck. The second father, the rich dad of the title, was the father of Robert's boyhood friend Mike. Mike's dad owned a chain of convenience stores, some restaurants, warehouses, and a construction company. Despite the absence of a fancy education, Mike's dad had a thirst for knowledge about business, money, and human behavior, and despite having the appearance of a working-class, blue-collar worker, Mike's dad was actually accumulating significant wealth. The book takes a journey through Robert's childhood and his money education, the poor dad teaching him to get a good education so that he can get a good, prestigious job, the rich dad teaching him to think about money in more expansive terms and, instead of becoming an employee, dependent on a single source of income, to have money work for him, and to generate multiple sources of income, and to be the owner of the company rather than just an employee. The book provides an interesting framework of how to think about work, money, saving, and investment. And it seems such a framework would be useful to many people. We've probably all heard stories about people earning $100,000 a year, but still living paycheck to paycheck, or lottery winners who declare bankruptcy after winning life-changing fortunes, and athletes and celebrities earning fortunes but still struggling with money. Think about Mike Tyson, who earned more than $100 million during his career, but was declared bankrupt shortly after his retirement when the money stopped coming in. So, what are the core lessons Robert teaches us in Rich Dad, Poor Dad? The first rule Robert establishes is to acquire assets. Rich people buy assets, but the financially illiterate buy liabilities thinking they're assets, or oftentimes they just spend their money on stuff. In this context, an asset is anything that increases in value and provides an income. Think about buying shares in a successful public company like Coca-Cola or Microsoft. You would expect the price of these shares to rise over time, and in the interim, you earn dividend income from your ownership of them. Conversely, buying an expensive car is a liability. Not only will it depreciate in value, but you will also have to continually spend money on insurance, petrol, and repairs. One of these things puts money in your pocket, the other takes it out. If you want to be rich, you have to make sure you're accumulating assets. The second important lesson is to spend less than you earn. This sounds so painfully obvious, but how many people do you know with good jobs who are always short of money? They have expensive mortgages, car loans, credit card debt, and yet they just keep on spending. If you want to be wealthy and accumulate cash-flowing assets, you need to live below your means. If you can save at least 10% of your income each month and constantly strive to increase your income, then you can move increasing amounts of capital to the asset column. And of course, those assets will generate their own income. Over a period of years, this system will create a flywheel effect, whereby the passive income generated from your assets will exceed your earned income. And at that time, you will become financially free. One of Robert's key mantras is that your job isn't what you do for a living to earn an income. Your job is to focus on your own business. That is, your asset column, and ensuring it is growing and making you wealthy. The next lesson is to be mindful of your taxes. This doesn't simply mean you should pay your taxes when they're due, which you absolutely should. But you should be fully aware of how to structure your affairs in such a way as to minimize your obligation to the government. The easiest way to minimize your tax obligation is to make use of government-sponsored tax privilege programs, such as retirement accounts and individual savings accounts. However, these programs generally have an annual contribution cap, after which no more money can be invested. The next step is to form a corporation. This is as simple as filing paperwork with your local government and establishing the legal structure. And this process doesn't require expense on offices, factories, or even staff. It can simply be you and the paperwork of incorporation. When the structure is in place, you can transfer your assets to the corporation. And guess what? Corporations are taxed less than individuals. But there's more. In addition to enjoying a lower rate of taxation, corporations also have an additional benefit. As an employee, you earn a salary which is taxed, and then your expenses come next. But with a corporation, you earn income, then subtract all expenses incurred, and it is only the amount left after expenses that is subject to tax. This process effectively lowers the taxable income, and therefore the amount of tax paid. The end result is you get to keep more of what you earn, which obviously helps you to compound more money for a longer period, and so reach your goals all the quicker. As Robert mentions in the book, always seek professional advice from a tax specialist and a lawyer before proceeding in this direction to ensure you are fully compliant. The other core lessons Robert teaches include to choose your friends wisely. You may have heard the saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. The intent here is to encourage you to find people you can learn from and to surround yourself with people who have the attributes you want. If you want to be wealthy, it is probably better to surround yourself with business people and those who are actively working to accumulate wealth and achieve goals than with those people who are directionless and have no energy to achieve anything in life. He also reaches us about mindset and how important it is to frame problems in a positive way. Instead of stating, "I can't afford this thing," you should instead ask yourself the question, "How can I afford it?" The inversion of this reality helps to rewire the brain to find solutions and to achieve goals instead of simply giving up. So, there you have it. Encompassed in a few simple and easy-to-follow lessons is the framework Robert used to become wealthy. Robert believes following this framework will not only allow a person to become rich, but actually move beyond that to become wealthy. And his definition of wealthy is how long a person is able to survive if they simply stopped working. In this context, a person with modest outgoings and several cash-flowing assets could last indefinitely without ever working again, and as such is wealthier than someone earning a fat salary but living paycheck to paycheck. Of course, the book delves into much more detail and nuance than we can hear, and provides some interesting examples of how to invest money for maximum return, and how to identify opportunities as they present themselves. And it is well worth a read. You can get a copy from your favorite book retailer from as little as a few dollars. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you'll join me for more of the same next time. Thank you.